Yeah, so if your player script looks like this, just input get mouse button like that. The only thing you have to change is you go in here, right? Click the FPS controller, and it should have had a character collider there. I already removed it. So if you click FPS controller, you should see character controller. Do you see that component? So I just came with the FPS controller.
At the top of
Yeah, so get rid of that component.
Character controller?
Yep, get rid of that. We're not going to use a character controller for this. And then in the rigid body settings, uncheck is kinematic. So we don't want it to be kinematic. And the constraints over here, you want to open this, and you see where it says freeze rotation in constraints of rigid body. So we want to freeze that rotation so our character never like falls over or something like that.
Okay.
That's very terrible and very dizzy.
Yeah. So that's sort of replacing the is kinematic.
Kind of, but again, we keep the good parts of it, which is collisions with walls. So as long as you have that, and now I want you to add a capsule collider. So that's our final touch. So you go to component, physics, capsule collider. That's on the FPS controller. And my settings that I have here, I have a height of 2. And that makes it perfect. It's the only change.
I did too.
Height of 2, yes, to make the capsule like long like this. Yeah, so now if you press play and you hold Alt, and if you hold left mouse, your player should be kind of, so in the game view, if you just hold the left mouse, you should see him like kind of walking around.
No turning though.
So you have to hold Alt.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just because the Google VR to simulate it. In our instance, we would be looking around with our head, basically.
Okay.
So you notice that he slides, like when you let go, he kind of slides a little bit, then he stops. So we're gonna make a little script that's just gonna stop him instantly. What problem are you having?
So I think I put the capsule collider in, but it's put in a weird place. It's like, is it?
Let me see the player go closer to him. Yeah, just pull the player up. He's like very in the floor. Yeah. That's more like it.
Okay. But the capsule collider goes way down. Is that right?
No, it doesn't.
Is that what?
No, that's the camera view port.
Okay.
Yep. The collider's always green. They always have the green outline.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, just try it.
That's the capsule collider?
Yeah,
Okay.
so he'll just fall to the ground. So just press play. Let me just see if that works. Oh, so you have see this is unexpected symbol, so you just double click that.
Got it.
It'll take you right there. Yeah, so one more close parentheses. So we had open and close parentheses for get mouse button. You need to close this if statement parentheses.
Oh, I see.
Yep. So just, and then this here, you might wanna, it should just be rigid, not that FP. You have some.
Yeah, so I.
FP rigid. Yeah, just get rid of that like square bracket thing.
Oh, you don't need that?
No, I think that was a typo when I was doing it. Yeah, so save the script,
Yes.
Control S, and then just go back to the game. Yeah, press play. Okay, so now in there you'll hold Alt,
Yep.
and then if you just hold left click in there, but it should be, your mouse should kind of be in there. Just hold in there, yeah. So you hold left click just to see it. Yeah.
Cool.
So he walks around. So yeah, for Ted, you might want to pull this maybe a little bit bigger, so you can kind of, yeah. You can also always do maximize on play.
All right.
So before you enter, you click maximize on play over here, and then when you press play, you will get the full screen like this. Now the other thing that I want to show you too, which you should not be seeing on your screen, you see I have a pointer, I have a little reticle. See the little dot I have in the center of the screen?
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you how to add that, right? So the way that you do that is you go to Project, Google VR, Prefabs, and then in there it should be UI. You should see a folder called UI. And there should be a GVR reticle pointer. See that?
Just put that.
So put that in, so open the FPS controller, put that in the first person character camera thing.
Okay.
Put it, yeah, so right next to the left and right eye. It should be in there,
Okay.
just like that.
And we see that in the game mode, right?
Yeah, and then you'll see it as like, that will be basically like your aim, like your center of the screen. So that's very important to have, because users just intuitively know that that's like your aim, basically. So another word for that is reticle. And what this one actually does is it does that nice Google VR, like it like opens up when you're hovering over something. So you can do gaze-based interactions and stuff, but we'll get to that stuff maybe later. But yeah, so for now, you know, your character should be sliding. Now if you want to get rid of that sliding, we want to basically stop his velocity. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to do it on input get mouse button up. So right after this one, you know, you just copy this just like that, and only change here if get mouse button up, like that.
Sorry.
Yeah, so in the player script, so yeah, we have get mouse button 0. We want to just make another if statement for if input get mouse button up. So that's when you release rigid.velocity is equal to vector 3.0, like that.
Oh yeah, I got you.
And that will basically make the speed stop when you let go. Now, if you wanted to slide around and stuff, you could do that too. And then you can tweak the drag. Drag is friction in physics, so you could get the same effect by just increasing the friction technically. Then he would kind of like stop a lot shorter. He wouldn't slide as much.
Can you see your code again?
Yeah, let me just see if this works. Yeah, so he stops now. Yeah, so I just have right here, just after that if statement, I just have the same. But, you know, so just probably just copy this. And you just want to change get mouse button to get mouse button up.
Okay. Wait, but that's different, right? Can you move that pause? What did you copy?
So this, I just put up too. You know what I mean?
But down below at the rigid velocity
Is equal to vector 3.0. Yep. So that's when we release our touch, basically. Character will stop. Okay. Coolio. Alright, so let's see how much time we have. Alright, we're doing good. So just for starters, you know, we want our player to kind of be introduced to this world a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to make these things called trigger areas. And you probably remember some of the scripting from when we were doing our goalie demo stuff. But what I want to do is I want to kind of, you know, maybe flash some messages as you're kind of walking along this path. Possibly even play a sound effect. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a game object, 3D object sphere, and you want to pull your sphere, you know, kind of like here in your level, and scale it up, kind of like that. So that would be like. You can push it down like this if you want to make it like kind of like a dome. And then just when you have your sphere, just turn off the mesh renderer, so we only have this nice area, so like a nice collider like that, and we're going to use that as a trigger, right? So now in here, what we're going to do in the sphere, so we're going to prepare the sphere, one of them, and then you'll see how easy it is to reuse that same script and just change the text in it, for example, what we're doing. So let's say we do, so once you have your sphere, then I want you to go into game object, 3D object, and create a 3D text, just like how we did before.
So wait, sorry.
So you do your sphere, turn off your mesh renderer, and you're creating a new game object. You're creating a 3D text this time.
Okay.
So it'll probably start like backwards like this. So again, just rotate it, just facing forward. And kind of move it into position where the sphere was kind of. I just kind of eye it out. So see, if I look here, I can see that my radius of my sphere ends kind of around here, something like this, right? So then I'm gonna just remember it's like right here, and I want to take this text and just kind of move it to where I'm kind of expecting that sphere to be over. Maybe even a little bit in front of it, because the idea is when the player enters the sphere, we want to kind of flash this text. So again, if your text is pixelated like this, which it probably is, the way you change that, same as we did before, change the font size, so like something like 32, and then change the character size to something like 0.3. You can even make the font size even more, like 48, and then character size like 0.2. And then, so here, we would invent like a little bit of a story, a little bit of an intro, but basically you can write right here something like gaze to shoot opponents, something like that. And then the alignment, I'm gonna make it center, just so we kind of have some nice centered text. And then this new text, just rename that new text to something like message. So we'll call that the message object.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have that, take that message object and put it in the sphere we just created earlier, just as a child object. And then these two should kind of come together as a package now.
With the text as a child.
Yeah, so just kind of pull it into the sphere. And the sphere, what we're going to create this, so we're going to rename the sphere as well, and we're going to call this trigger message, or something like that. Okay. Everyone have that?
Yep.
All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new script in the project. So just right click, create, and then we're going to create a C# script, and we're going to call this one trigger message script, something like that. So I just write trigger lowercase, message uppercase like that, and that should be fine.
Sorry, what did you just do?
Create a new script.
Okay.
Yeah, so just right click in project and create a new script. Yeah, you should have your sphere and your text looking something like this. So trigger message. And then there'll be like one object like this. So you can already see where we're going with this. But basically what we want to do is we want to hide the text on start, and we want to fade it in once you enter the sphere. And once you exit the sphere, we want to fade it out. It's a very simple behavior, and then you'll see that it's very easy to reuse that. You can change the text, you can change the position of that trigger, but basically we create this one object and we'll be able to lay it out in our level as many times as we want. So once you made your new script, just open that. It should just be an empty script. So let me know when you're in the script editor.
Okay.
Alright, cool. In the matrix. So in here, we're going to do void. So we're doing the same thing that we did before on trigger enter. So this, behavior will happen on trigger enter. You open parentheses and you write like this collider and then other object, something like that. That's just whatever you want to name it. We're just going to call it other object. So that will be passed in there, like whatever object basically enters the trigger, it will be called other object in this script. So just do it like this: open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and then in here, this is important. So we're going to do if other object. Now remember this dot tag. So we tagged our objects, and then equals. So you do two equals whenever you're doing a comparative. When you're assigning a number, x is equal to 1, standard. But when you're doing an if x is equal to 1, you have to do the double equals like this. So if other object dot tag, and then do the quotes player. So that will just check if the other object that entered the trigger, if it's tagged as player, because we don't want this trigger to run on like an AI when it enters it, for example. So we're just kind of covering our bases, making sure it's a reusable script. So after you do this if statement, open a curly bracket, close a curly bracket. Is everyone on the same page? Like none of this is like, if I can explain any of these like more in detail if anyone has any questions. Or it's pretty straightforward, right? So again, like if you don't remember some of this syntax, you can always, do like check if entered trigger Unity. I'll just Google that, right? Just plain English. First thing, it's a Unity answers thing. You scroll yourself down to the accepted answer, and there it is. Look at that. Void on trigger enter, collider other, if other dot tag. Same script we just wrote. You could just copy and paste that into your script. Like if you just forget this syntax. Again, I just use plain English. I just Google check if entered trigger Unity.
Okay.
And there's lots of different ones. There's the one from the script API too, which also will give you basically the same thing. Destroy other game objects. So what this one does is it just destroys whatever enters the trigger. But it's the same principle. So if you ever just forget some of this syntax, you can look it up. There's so many different first results that show up with copy and pastable code.
What does destroy mean?
So destroy just literally what it implies. It destroys the game object. It just like deletes it from the scene.
Oh, okay.
That's the equivalent of literally like deleting an object like this, but through script.
Does it do it?
Oh, nice.
Like, does it just disappear? Or
It just disappears in the scene, not the asset.
Okay.
Just like from yeah.
But it doesn't do it like, it doesn't explode or anything.
No. It just destroy is like a programmatic just term.
So like if you want to do like a rain, but you don't want so many objects like keep like showing up, then like as soon as you touch the ground, maybe.
Yeah, like if you exactly like that you don't want to have like leftover objects hogging up performance and stuff. Destroy is like you can do destroy on objects. You can also do destroy on components. Same thing, to remove like a rigid body, for example. You just pass it in there. Same thing. But yeah, so our script should look something like this. On trigger enter, other object, if other object tag is equal to player. Now, what I want to do here, so now this is cool, right? So we want this trigger script to just be kind of like reusable. Like we could do it like this, right? We could type up here, and you could type with me, right? So public text mesh, right? Because that's what these 3D texts. If you click a 3D text, you see it's called text mesh. So that's the component that we want to work with, basically. But yeah, if you just do up here public text mesh, and then message, something like that, semicolon. And then
it's whatever we named it, right?
yeah, I mean, no, it's just a message is fine. It doesn't. This is up to you. It's a variable.
Okay.
We'll just pull our text mesh object in here
Okay.
to work it. So just real quick, let's go back to in the editor where our trigger message object is, and pull that new script that we just made onto it, onto the sphere, onto the X sphere. And you should see something like this. Once you did the public thing, you should see message and then none text mesh in here. So it's waiting for a link. So just take that message that's inside the sphere and just drag it into that right there.
Okay, wait, I'm on the trigger. Where is it?
Yeah, so you should, if you have this public text mesh message, then that should show up here in the inspector over here. It should be like, you should be able to pull your message object into it.
Full script into it.
Yes, I think you have, public. You spelled it.
Got it.
Yeah, and then if you pull that script onto the
There.
Yep. Yeah, just save it. Make sure you save your script. Go back to unexpected end of file. That's what it says. You have. Yeah, so you opened this, you closed it, but then you forgot to close this on trigger enter. So you closed it. Yeah. So you just one more closing after that.
After this one.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep, and save it. So it always nests it like that, you see? And then you can kind of keep track of where things open, where things close. And if you're ever unsure, again, you can just click the little curly bracket, like here, and it'll show you, where it ends and where it begins.
Still giving me
What's it saying? Yes, it's saved. Should be fine. Unity engine component does not contain a definition for velocity, whereas this is our player script. Can you double click that? Yeah, so make sure this, because I just put rigid, it should be this FP rigid here, you get it? Because rigid body isn't.
this. Okay.
Yeah, you have to define, you already defined it up here as FP rigid, so you should reuse that same thing.
Got it.
Yeah, so save. Yep. Alright, so now you can pull that on there. And then once you have that, yeah, so just try it again. Yeah, so click that there. Yeah, and then it expects the text mesh, so put that text in there. So now we've linked, the sphere script
Yeah.
with the text mesh that's in it. So what we want to do is on start, we want to do message. So whatever your text mesh is called, message dot color, right, is equal to new color, like this. So a new type of color. Now, let me see if they actually have just some presets. No, they don't. That's okay. So yeah, just new color. And I'll show you just how to make a color.
So wait, is this a new script?
No, same, the trigger message script on start. So what we want to do is we want to hide the text mesh. And the way we are going to do that is by setting its transparency to 0, basically. So we're setting the color of the message. So this way you do it, message.color.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can
do destroy.
But if you destroy it, then you can't fade it in. You know what I mean? So we wanna just hide it to our eyes, but we still want it to be there. And then once it enters the trigger, we'll do like a quick fade up, basically. So message.color is equal to new color, and then here you should do one F, so that's just white. So RGB, and then do this fourth comma is the alpha. So you see it says RGB and an A. So the alpha should be 0f, like this. And then close parentheses and semicolon. And save that, and just if we press play, let's just see if this text, hides. Yeah, so mine isn't showing up. But it's still there. It just its transparency is nil.
Can't walk in. Oh, mash button.
What?
But do I need? Oh, there's a sphere glider. Do I need to turn it off?
On the trigger?
Yeah.
Were you trying to walk through it? Yeah. So the last thing, so the trigger here, click the is trigger here on the collider, and that makes you able to go through it, through the sphere. So you just click the trigger message object, and just make sure it's sphere collider is a trigger. Yeah, so now we're gonna do, it's a little fun script, right? But basically, what we're gonna do here is, I'm gonna set something like, right after this public text message, I want you to just make like a quick just helper variable, just a boolean, and call it like fade in, something like that, is equal to false. And do another one like bool fade out is equal to false. And what we're gonna do is on trigger enter, we're gonna make one of these bools equals to true, and then we'll check if that's true, then we'll fade the text color up. So you'll see in a moment what happens. So yeah, you got this? Everyone got this?
Hold on, just give me 1 second here.
In trigger message.
Yeah.
Now we all remember what booleans are, so they can only be true or false. This is very helpful when you're writing little scripts. If some condition happens, on trigger enter, what we really just want to do here is we want to make this fade in equals to true. So after this other object tag equal to player, fade in equals to true. Just like that. So then on update, right here, we're just gonna make an enter just a few times just to give yourself some space there. And what we're gonna do in here is we're gonna take we're gonna take the current color of the message. So you're just gonna store the color in a temporary variable. So you just do color, like COL, like call, or something like that, whatever you want to call it, is equal to message dot color, like that. So we're just storing it, and then after this you do if fade in. Now you don't need to do equals to true here, because when something is a boolean, it assumes, because it's only true or false, you can even just do like this if fade in, and that's already assuming if fade in is true.
Right.
If you want to do the reverse, if you want to do if fade in is false, you do an exclamation point here behind it.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, just so you know, this is the same as this, completely the same. So you can just do if fade in like this, open a curly bracket, enter a few times, close a curly bracket, and then here we're going to do color. So now this is really cool. It's these little types of scripts that you're going to find very useful in the future. It's very important to know how to work with colors, for example, alpha transparencies. So you always store an object's value, like whether it's its vector or its color, in like a temporary variable, and then you are modifying this temporary variable. So col, and then here if you put dot, You can see it already expects an R, B, or G. It has them there. We will just want to do the A because we're only modifying the alpha here. So call.A, so that's the alpha channel value, and then we're going to do plus equals to, and then something like time delta time. So that will like increase after 1 second. It will like be 1 technically. So every frame, when f fade in is equal to true, the color.a of this temporary variable is incrementing by the time. The last thing we have to do is now that we modified this temporary variable.
So bigger the alpha, more the transparency.
So it's an alpha of 0 is not showing, an alpha of 1 is fully shown basically, and everything in between you'll see it will be like a fade. So this is like a very simple like fade-in script. So the last thing you do is now you have to set that temporary call variable that we just modified back to the message color. So you just do message.color is equal to call, like this. Just to basically set it back.
Yeah. So that's what it's building on the next time.
Yeah, so now, you know, and then the next time it'll pick that color up with the slightly incremented value, then it'll increment it again, then it'll set itself back, then it'll pick that up again, and it'll just keep doing that. And even if it reaches maxed out, you won't see the difference. If you want to just make sure it doesn't do that, right after this, right after this call.a plus equals to time delta time, you want to do if call.a is bigger than 1f, like this, open curly bracket, close. Then you can do call.a is equal to 1f. So that basically means if it ever does get bigger than 1f, it'll always just stay at 1f, kind of. So here you won't really see the difference with that because, an alpha over 1 just shows up the same as an alpha at 1. But for other things, if you're doing fade in, or if you're doing, for whatever reason, you're going to do a similar type of script, just know that sometimes it's good to limit, like the upper limit of something. So, if you don't want it to reach past a certain point, usually do it like that. If statement, if it's bigger than that, just make it equal to that. And then it will always, even if it tries to get bigger than that, it will just basically just stop. It will set itself to, it's only 1f. So now if we just save this, and if I just press play, I'm going to just try to walk into that sphere like this, and wait, didn't show up. Oh yeah, last thing, we're going to have to tag the player as player. We didn't do that. So just semicolon.
Where's that? Oh, here?
Yep. Save. And that should be good. So, let me just see here. So click the FPS controller. Last thing we have to do is tag him as player, just so that that is true. So it should be one of the pre-made tags should be player there. So just make sure it's the FPS controller, the one with the rigid body. Modify its tag up here, make it player, and just save your scene. Just Control S to just save what we have so far. Make sure you save. Make sure you do that very often because Unity doesn't have the backup if crash thing.
I learned that.
Yeah.
On the regular.
Yeah. So now it should just work. So if you just look on my screen, it should do something like this. So we go in here, we walk in, there it is. See?
That's really awesome.
Beautiful, right? So now if we wanted to, we have time. So if we wanted to just add a little bit of flair to this, this is a cool little thing that I like to show people. I don't know how long it's going to be around or whatnot. You don't have to follow along this because I'm using a certain method to do it. But If you just Google something like SitePal, sitepal.com, they have these. So if I click the demo, try our classic demo. Oh, please use Adobe Flash. Sure, no problem. So, oh come on, you gotta click. I don't have to keep Flash installed on. So, there's probably other ones if you like, but basically what I want to use here is I want to use, they have a really good text-to-speech
Welcome to the site
synthesizer.
With our new
Wait.
editor, it's easier than ever to create your own speech.
Let me change it.
What are you doing?
Just have to have Flash installed. Where is it? I hate that they changed this. Wait. Let me just try to. I think if you just Google it, something like SitePal text to speech. There it is. So it's one of the first ones that shows up. If you just Google SitePal text to speech. So now this lady, for example, here, if I just say something like, I want her to say the same thing that this message says. So gaze to shoot opponents. I'm just going to write it in here, gaze to shoot opponents. Say it.
Gaze to shoot opponents.
And you can change like the voices.
Gaze to shoot opponents.
Now, this one's really robotic. Julie's not bad.
Gaze to shoot opponents.
And then you could also, they got other ones like,
Gaze to shoot opponents.
you know, like, doesn't sound too bad. But say, you know, we do like Jill, something like
Gaze
that.
to shoot opponents.
No, not Jill, Julie.
Gaze to shoot opponents.
So what I do is, and I'm screen recording right now, but for those that are going to watch later on in the video, I'm just going to use my screen recorder software to basically just screen record this real quick. So I'm going to do it right now.